You won't believe what happens when Ashley falls in love for the first time, but not in the way you think. Ashley never thought she'd find love. Not really. Sure, she had crushes, maybe even fleeting infatuations, but real love? She always imagined it as something distant. Until Brandon, the boy who changed everything. This is the story of how Ashley discovered what it means to truly fall in love, and how it turned her world upside down. It all started on a rainy day in the middle of senior year. Ashley had always kept to herself, buried in her books and sketches, thinking she'd never need more than that. But when Brandon moved to town, something shifted. He was different, quiet, yet confident, kind, yet mysterious. He wasn't the typical popular guy everyone adored, but he had a way of making you feel like you were the most important person in the room. For Ashley, that was new. She couldn't figure out why, but she found herself drawn to him, pulled in by his presence. The problem? She didn't know how to act around him. She had never been in love before. Sure, she'd daydreamed about it, but when faced with the real thing, everything felt overwhelming. The thought of telling him how she felt made her heart race, but she couldn't. What if he didn't feel the same way? What if he didn't even notice her? For weeks, Ashley wrestled with her emotions. Every time she saw Brandon, she felt a rush of excitement, but also an undeniable fear. What if her feelings were just a fleeting crush? Or worse, what if he was already interested in someone else? Her friends could see it, the way she lit up every time Brandon walked by. They encouraged her to talk to him, to make the first move. But Ashley wasn't sure she could handle rejection. She had seen what happened to other people when things didn't go as planned. It was messy, awkward, and sometimes the tension between two people was too much to bear. It wasn't like she could escape it either. Brandon had a way of sneaking into her thoughts at all hours of the day. Every time he spoke, even if it was just a simple, "Hey, Ashley," her heart did this funny little flip in her chest. She would replay every moment, every word he said, trying to figure out if there was a deeper meaning behind it. And then there were those stolen moments when their eyes would meet across the room. She never knew how to react. She'd feel a flutter in her stomach, her breath catching for just a second. Would he look away quickly? Or would he hold her gaze, just for a second longer? More than once, she had caught herself overthinking, wondering if he felt the same, if he felt that strange connection too. But she never dared to ask. She wasn't ready for the answer. Then, one afternoon, everything shifted. It was another dreary afternoon, typical of the end of winter days. The kind of gray, foggy weather that made you feel like the world was asleep. Ashley had stayed after school to finish some assignments, the library's silence giving her a sense of comfort as she buried herself in her work. But then, out of nowhere, she saw him, Brandon, standing by the doorway, looking around like he was searching for someone. He didn't see her at first. Ashley's heart raced, her palms growing clammy. Was this really happening? Was he actually here, in the library, by himself? Without thinking, Ashley ducked behind the shelf, hoping to avoid being noticed. She had convinced herself that she wasn't ready to talk to him. Not yet. But before she could calm herself down, Brandon turned toward her, his eyes locking onto hers. She froze. It felt like he could see straight through her, like her whole world had come to a standstill. "Hey," he said with that warm smile that always made Ashley's heart skip. "I didn't expect anyone to be here this late." Ashley blinked, trying to act normal, though her voice came out a little too breathless. I just needed to finish some homework," she stammered, fumbling with her papers. "I didn't know you'd be here." Brandon stepped closer, his movements casual. But there was something in his expression, something sincere and open, that made Ashley feel like she was the only one in the room. "I come here to get away from all the noise," he said softly. "I like the quiet. It helps me think." Ashley nodded, not really knowing what to say, but feeling an overwhelming urge to connect. Her heart was racing, but for some reason, it didn't feel like anxiety. It felt like excitement? The conversation flowed easily, like it was meant to happen. At first, it was just small talk. Simple things like how their day had gone and what classes they liked best. But soon enough, they were both digging deeper, talking about things they usually didn't share with others. Ashley told him about her passion for drawing, how it wasn't just a hobby, but something that helped her express emotions she couldn't otherwise articulate. Brandon listened carefully, his eyes never leaving hers, and he seemed genuinely interested in what she had to say. I don't think I ever really told anyone that before, Ashley admitted, laughing a little nervously. Drawing's just my escape, you know? Brandon smiled warmly, and his voice dropped slightly, as if he was sharing something personal. I get it. Sometimes, when everything's too loud, I pick up a book. It's like, it's my way of drowning out the world. It makes me feel like I'm not alone. Ashley felt this sudden, unexpected bond form between them, this shared sense of finding comfort in the quiet. There was something special about the way he spoke, the way he seemed to understand her, as if he wasn't just hearing her, but truly listening. For the first time in a long while, Ashley felt understood. As they kept talking, Ashley found herself laughing more than she had in weeks. Brandon had this easy way about him that made everything seem lighter, even though they were talking about deeper things. They both had stories of feeling out of place at times, but somehow, with each other, that feeling seemed to fade. By the time the bell rang, signaling the end of the day, they were both reluctant to leave. That was nice, Ashley said, surprised by how much time had passed. Brandon nodded, standing up. Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow. Ashley felt her stomach flutter as she watched him walk away. Tomorrow. It seemed like a promise. Maybe things would change. Maybe she wasn't so alone in this after all. The next day felt different. The whole day was charged with anticipation, as if everything leading up to it had been preparing her for something important. She couldn't explain why, but it was like she knew something was going to happen. It wasn't just her imagination running wild, it felt real. So when she entered the library, and there was Brandon, sitting at their usual spot but not alone, her heart sank. There she was. Emily, the girl with the big smile, the one everyone seemed to adore. Ashley had seen Emily around school, but she wasn't someone Ashley really thought much of. Yet here they were, Brandon and Emily, sitting side by side, laughing together as if they had been friends forever. Ashley's stomach twisted. It wasn't jealousy. At least, she didn't think it was. It was something else. A sharp, unfamiliar feeling, as if a door had just slammed shut in her face. She could hear their conversation from across the room. The way Emily's voice bubbled with laughter, how she leaned in close to Brandon. As if sharing a secret. Was Brandon interested in her? Did he like her? The questions raced through Ashley's mind, and her pulse quickened. The whole world seemed to close in on her. She turned to leave, but before she could take a step, she heard a voice. Ashley, wait! Her heart leaped. She froze. Slowly, she turned around. Brandon was standing, his face serious but gentle, and there was something in his eyes, something that softened her fear. He approached her slowly, cautiously, as if he could sense how nervous she felt. Ashley, he said, his voice low, almost like a confession. I don't want you to misunderstand. Ashley's breath caught in her throat. He didn't even wait for her to respond before continuing. I've been spending time with Emily, but that's not what I wanted to talk to you about, Brandon said, his words careful. I've been trying to figure out something for a while now. And I know this might be unexpected, but the truth is, he paused for a moment, looking at her, as if trying to gauge her reaction. Ashley's heart pounded in her chest, her head spinning with so many thoughts, but she couldn't look away. I think I'm falling for you, Ashley, Brandon admitted, his voice soft but firm. I don't know how this happened, but it has, and I want to see where this goes, with you. Ashley blinked, trying to process what he had just said. Her breath hitched, and for a moment, she wasn't sure if she had heard him right. But when she saw the sincerity in his eyes, the nervousness mixed with something deeper. She knew this wasn't just a passing moment. This was real. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Instead, she took a step closer, as if the space between them had suddenly disappeared. Brandon gave a small, uncertain smile. I just, I don't want to confuse you, Ashley, but I feel something, and I need you to know that. In that moment, all the fear, all the doubt that had been building inside her dissolved. The world around her seemed to fade away, leaving just the two of them standing there, in the middle of everything. She couldn't explain it, but she knew one thing for sure. This was real. This was happening. And for the first time, Ashley allowed herself to believe it. After that day, everything between Ashley and Brandon changed. They grew closer, slowly but steadily, navigating the unknowns of their newfound feelings. It wasn't always easy. They still had moments of doubt, moments when they both questioned whether they were doing the right thing. But each day, they found comfort in each other's presence. Ashley's art took on a new depth, reflecting the complexities of the emotions she was learning to navigate. And Brandon? He started sharing his books with her more, showing her poems and stories that spoke to the way he felt. Their connection grew stronger, and though there were still bumps along the way, they learned to face them together. It was a love that wasn't perfect, but it was honest, and that, Ashley realized, was enough. If you want to hear more love stories like this, don't forget to hit subscribe and check out the next video.